Okay. We got episode 1 of the Flight Risk Podcast. I'm Sebastian, and we're joined by
Hi, I'm Hans.
Hans. And basically, we're just going to be discussing some nomad life stories and experiences. And first topic we wanted to cover was essentially why we're doing what we're doing, our current travels. So, Hans, I'll kind of let you take the lead right now and see where it goes.
Absolutely. Thanks for this, man. I'm really excited to get this podcast finally off the ground, if you will. And I feel like it's very appropriate since we're, both on the road right now. I hope that we're both going to be at the same corner of the world at some point, but for now, let's let it ride, man. So right
It might
now,
be a bit. It might be a bit, but we'll see.
such is life. That's how it goes.
It's true.
Fair enough. So I'm in San Diego right now. I consider Brooklyn more of a home, but I'm in San Diego and really wanted to change it up. I mean, let's be honest. The pragmatic reason is that it's 20 degrees out on the East Coast and it's 70 outside right now. So it's sunny
100%.
out here. Yeah, I can't complain. There's definitely more reasons to it. I mean, there's like 3 cities in the country that I feel like were very appealing to me. I mean, besides Brooklyn, I guess is one of them, but Chicago, which still is the city closest to my heart, aside from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss that later. But
I look forward to it. I think I could put up a strong debate for why Chicago is the GOAT. And then right after that, to me, it was San Diego. I mean, I don't know. And I like look at what the cities are that people like consider the best. I always see these two coming up a lot, or maybe just because they resonate the most. Also, I guess a little tidbit is that I was dating a girl who we were supposed to visit San Diego together last summer. She ended up going on her own because she was in the West Coast anyway. We ended up breaking up, but I made a promise to myself that I was still going to go and check it out for myself. So here I am.
Yeah, that's good, man. San Diego's a fun area.
Have you been?
I mean, literally for a day, I did a little motorcycle trip from LA on a Ducati and
Mhm.
met up with some people that live there, and we went like a little bit outside the city through the little canyons and whatnot. There's some
That's
like
awesome.
pie shop that's like really famous over there. I forgot
Dude,
what it's
you went to
called.
Julian. You went to Julian's
Yeah, I
Pie.
think that yeah, I
No
think that's it. Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Dude,
rode a
yeah.
motorcycle from LA to over there, and then like I rode back the same day. It was like my was destroyed, but
Yeah, I
pause.
bet, man. Yeah, for real. Yeah, the trials and tribulations of the biking, man. I can't imagine. Couldn't be me. But I respect it.
No, it's fun, man. But so what have you been up to over there? Like, what's your week look like typically right now?
It's definitely changed so much from week to week, which I guess is a good thing. But I mean, I mainly came out here honestly because like I went to Chicago at the end of last summer. That was unexpectedly a fucking party. And then I kind of just continued that vibe while I was in New Jersey, surprisingly, because I was in New York a lot. I also dog sat a couple weekends in New York, so I was able to really like be in the city, in the thick of it. And also it was just nice to see everyone after having left that part of the country for like the longest time in my life, probably, which is insane to
Hmm.
say.
Yeah.
So actually, the purpose of this trip was like, okay, it's winter. San Diego does feel a little bit more chill. So I was like, you know what, let me try and find comfort in solitude. It took a long time for that to happen. I was just so like in the same energy of New York when I first came here. And I was like, you're in a new place. You feel like a little bit of anxiety of like, oh, I need to meet people. I have FOMO and stuff like this, stuff like that. So that lasted for a pretty long time. But I feel like in the past week or two, probably last week, really, I started to really find some more chillness. So now I have a lot going on this week. I mean, I have like this one, there's a recurring kind of music uh, series, like an event organizer that hosts music here.
Okay.
That's something that I'll be checking out. It's a very chill, low-key event. I'm going to play in my first pool tournament this week, which I'm pretty
Oh, wow.
excited for. I've been investing in that. And then some
Nice.
woman that I met at an art exhibit, she's really big on building community. So she hosts a weekly dinner every Tuesday. It's been a while since I've gone, I guess partially because I've been looking for solitude, but that's also a very
Hmm.
chill, low-key event. So those are the biggest things this week, but also I just want to be able to take some time to just kick it, enjoy the beauty, the aesthetic of this area, man. It's different. It's different from the East Coast. And I just want to be able to slow down, take it all in.
Yeah, that's great, man. And then So I think I'll touch on what I'm doing right now and kind of touch back also on the whole New York thing. So
Hmm.
I was in New York for 6 months, kind of leading up to
Hmm.
what was it, January, and then that's kind of when
Hmm.
we kind of met up
Hmm.
most recently. But also we
Hmm.
originally met in New York, I think.
Hmm.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Brooklyn.
So yeah, so we were kind of yeah, kind of met through Reddit, but at a concert of all places, which is like, oh, super cool. But I mean, other than that, so I myself now I'm in Sevilla, España,
Hmm.
which has been really cool. And now I'm kind of getting back into the nomad life after staying in one place. So, which was for the first time in like 4 years, I stayed in one place for
Hmm.
6 months in New York,
Wow.
which I mean,
Absurd.
yeah, I mean, I think we both have an appreciation for New York that I think a lot
Definitely.
of people that I meet don't seem to appreciate New York that way. But
Really?
yeah, I mean, don't you feel like a lot of people you meet that have been to New York, they're like, that's crazy. I would never want to live there, or like I can just go there for a weekend or something like that.
Outside of New York, absolutely. But in New
Yeah,
York,
yeah.
the people that live in New York are truthers.
No, for sure, yeah.
They
Like that's
rock
the
with
only
it.
place that you meet people that are like they have that vibe of like, yeah, it's all right here, I can stay here. I don't mind it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
100%. The rest of the country does not look at it fondly, which I guess not, shouldn't be that surprised to hear, but I noticed that only after I left.
yeah, I mean, I've had kind of a intense transition coming to Spain now, just with
I
like the
bet.
cost of living especially, and then
Mhm.
the tempo. So Sevilla's smaller, and they
Mhm.
definitely have like the siesta culture here.
Mhm.
And I had the same problem in Portugal where like so much of the time when I'm walking, I walk pretty
Mhm.
fast. I mean, you've been out with me before, like in New York.
Mhm.
Like I just like I'm walking where I need to go. I don't
I mean, yeah,
slow
you keep
down.
up. You keep up. You don't do
Yeah,
a bad
yeah,
job of
a
keeping up.
little bit. But
No, I'm
honestly, like
kidding.
I think nomading has kind of made me adapt to do that in general
Mhm.
because I think the faster you walk, no matter where you are, you're theoretically going to be probably safer.
Mhm.
People can approach you less because if you think about it, like if you're in a city where you have a lot of people that try to sell you things, if you're like in
Mhm.
Vietnam somewhere or like
Mhm.
Latin America, because people usually, if they're trying to approach you, like try to scam you, whatever, they kind of like they see you first and they try to approach you. But if you're
Mhm.
walking fast, like so many times I remember I'll be walking and someone tries to approach me, but by the time they're already trying to get my attention, like I'm
Mhm.
already like 5 feet ahead
Yeah,
of like where they were trying to meet me.
it's an
And then
asset,
I
baby.
can I can just like I just keep going. I just keep flowing. And it's
Swerve.
like
There
yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
Yeah. So it's like and it helps a lot. It's the same thing. Like I always see people, kind of walking slow on their phone
Mhm.
and then they'll
Mhm.
get approached by somebody and then they're kind of like almost they can get trapped between like, a building and then this person. It's
Mhm.
kind of almost like cutting off where you can go. And I
Mhm.
don't know, maybe it's something that I think about. I mean, even in New York and things like that, there's not a lot of
Mhm.
space to get away from people sometimes. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I've definitely adapted to do that. But here, like, I get so frustrated because I'm walking to the gym or something and people are walking at like a snail's pace, and I'm just
Ah.
like, oh my God. And I have to do that thing where I'm just like kind of, but I'm not trying to be rude about it, but I'm just like, I got to get
Mhm.
through it. I got to get to this place.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely it's a transition. It's been a transition, but oh, and here, like when you ask for the check at a restaurant, it could take like 30 minutes for them to get it to you.
No
Like it's just
way.
so, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's so, I mean, I don't know. It's just a very like laid back type of life. It's all the like
Mhm.
tranquilo, chill out. Like it's fine, it'll get done. And from what I hear, like the people that live here, if you're applying for any documentation, any like government
Mhm.
related things, like it's the same
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
you're like you submit a document and then you like follow up on it and they're like,
Mm.
oh, like chill out, like we'll get it done. And then it's like 3 weeks
Chill
later.
out.
Yeah.
You'll get
So
your renewed passport when it's ready.
yeah, no, exactly. Which like I don't know, it's such a transition, especially coming from New York, because I feel like Americans for sure are very like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm going. But New York is almost like tenfold that because like everyone
100%.
that you meet there is like everyone's moving at like 10x speed, I feel like, for the most part.
I couldn't
Especially
agree
like
more.
especially Manhattan. And so I don't know, I think over 6 months I almost got used to it. And then now
Mhm.
even like I went back to Chicago for 2 weeks, which is where I'm originally
Mhm.
from.
Mhm.
Um,
Not a bad place to originate from.
It's all right. It's
I
all
know,
right.
I know you beg to differ.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much on Chicago. We could have like a whole episode on
We can have an
Chicago
episode on
itself,
Chicago. I would like to
for
have a
sure.
multi-episode series on Chicago.
Yeah, there we go.
Gotta
We
dig it
already
out.
have like so many topics to discuss.
Hey, keep it coming, baby.
But I mean, even in Chicago, I feel like the first time I like went out in the city after being
Mhm.
back, it like everything is in slow motion. I felt like everyone
Yeah,
was kind of like, even the driving, everyone was just like,
yeah, it's different.
but yeah, so you kind of have to adapt to it. And I don't know, sometimes I struggle with that, I think my brain still almost like feels like it's still back in New York, and I have to remind
Mhm.
myself like, no, now you're surrounded by different people. There's different
Totally.
approaches to things here, and then
Hmm.
but I mean, I think now I'm getting a little bit better with it. I just have to account for like I logged in 45 minutes late for work, was like Tuesday or Wednesday, because the dude
Hmm.
at the restaurant I went to wouldn't bring the check for like 30 minutes, and I'm just like,
That's crazy, dude.
yeah,
In that
yeah,
situation, you gotta follow up. Is that rude if you like actually go to the waiter and ask for the check again?
yeah, I think it is because it's essentially,
Fair enough. It's a different culture, yeah.
yeah, in Spain, if you don't ask for the check at all, like they won't even bring it to you until you ask,
Hmm.
especially at like the traditional Spanish type like tapas places and all that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, culturally, it's kind of like, oh, you ask for the check, and then they just bring it to you like when they're able to. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, like the food comes out kind of like at a slower pace. It like going out to eat here is very much different from America. It's more so about like
Hmm.
having kind of like the social
Hmm.
aspect. And it's
Yeah.
like you're out with a friend, you're like enjoying each other's company, and you're like having a meal as opposed to like
Hmm.
the utility of like I'm just feeding myself,
Yes,
which
100%.
but I mean, I mean, obviously, like we've been out to eat a lot in New York,
Hmm.
and I love the aspect of like sharing a meal with a friend, grabbing drinks with
Hmm.
a friend. But yeah, if I have to get to work though in an hour,
Yeah.
I want to be able to like run it because like in New York, that's the greatest thing is that like there's gonna be a restaurant within a block or two wherever you are where you can
Mhm.
like run in, grab a slice of pizza, grab a
Yeah.
burger, burrito, and just like eat it real fast, and you're on your way. Um, so that's the convenience. Like America really is so convenient too compared to some countries. I will say that.
Hmm. I
Um,
agree. At
but
the same
it's
time, I find that extremely dystopian. I find like the fact that that New York essentially has turned into a giant fucking hub of what are they called? Digs, kavas. Kava is great, so that's the exception. But digs, what else? What are these bowl places? I mean, Sweet Green. So that there's three different salad places that are like
yeah,
that have locations on every other block. Like, do we really need that many salad places? And that's the sad part is that we've turned like the experience of a meal like we've diluted it. I mean, I don't know about you, but even growing up, like as a family and stuff, like in my family, it'd be like, oh, if we're getting food from out, that'd be like a special occasion. It'd be like nice. So to see us spending $20 on like a bowl of leaves that we probably won't even be necessarily eating with our coworkers, we'll literally be eating in our little tiny little silo.
yeah,
It's dystopian, I think. That's why I think there's something special about the Spanish experience, but there needs to be a balance, obviously. Like in it,
yeah,
it's really great to be able to have, those options in a pinch too.
yeah. I mean, I mean, slowly as I'm here, I'm able to kind of find places that are a bit more like run in and grab something because I
Mhm.
found a spot that's
Mhm.
like around the corner from me on Friday that they do
Mhm.
like the little like tostadas or like sandwiches.
Mhm.
You get it
Nice.
with like ham or whatever, and that's a place where I can like run
Ooh.
in and like ask like to go or para
Okay, nice.
llevar, and they yeah they'll just
There you
like
go.
wrap it up, and yeah, I mean I was able to
Mhm.
like run over there, get a sandwich, like
Mhm.
run back in like 10 minutes. So like yeah, there's options, but
That's good.
usually if you're sitting down though, it gets a bit more.
Mm.
You need to like you need to commit to the meal.
Yeah,
Like if you're
well, that's again, and that's not a
yeah
bad thing. And it kind of forces you have no choice but to slow down. And like now, if you know that this is the experience there, now instead of going to the restaurant like an hour before you have work or like 45 minutes before you have work, now you're forced to go an hour and a half or 2 hours before work. And maybe that's not a
yeah.
bad thing, you know?
No, I mean it's not. I actually now, because usually when I'm going out for food, I'll just, I take myself and my phone, maybe my
Mhm.
headphones if I'm listening to music,
Mhm.
and then just eat real
Mhm.
fast. But now, like today, I went out to eat. I brought my Kindle with me,
There
so
you go,
like,
man. Look at
yeah,
you.
yeah, no, I like, I sat
Full
down,
switch the
like,
Via.
I got like an orange juice, and then yeah, I read like or like 1.5 chapters in a book by the time my food showed up, and then like another half a
Oh,
chapter before the
another
check got there.
while waiting
Like
for the check.
yeah, yeah. So it's like I'm making some progress in my reading, and yeah, so I can't complain.
Dude.
I mean, especially on like today was Sunday, so it's a bit more, I don't have as tight of a schedule, but yeah, I
Mhm,
mean, of course, you just learn to adapt. I'm kind of curious because I'm heading to Valencia in three
mhm,
weeks, and then I'm only going to be there a week, and then I'll be in Barcelona for a month.
mhm,
And there's just so much like when I meet people out here, because Sevilla's southern Spain, they
mhm,
kind of like look at northern Spain as almost like a totally different culture, which they
mhm,
probably are.
mhm,
'Cause it's similar like in the US. I think now that you've kind of traveled through different cities, I'm sure you noticed that
mhm.
people in like San Diego are vastly different from like people in Chicago, and then people in
Yeah,
Chicago are vastly different from New Yorkers.
so much so.
Um, and
Mhm,
it's so weird because like I'm sure people in other countries sometimes are like, "Oh, you're from the US, so you're like this." It's like, no,
mhm,
dude.
mhm,
Like people are so different from different places, like different cities, different regions.
mhm.
Um, so that's always been I think it's so interesting. Like the world's a lot more like there's a lot more depth to people in the world
Yeah,
than I think a lot of people give credit. And I think nomading especially has really brought that to my attention. But
that's
and I
so
really love
cool.
it. I love it. Yeah.
That's so cool how much nuance there is like specifically to that. Because like honestly, once you compared it to America, that's when I was like, oh shoot, like that's like it just makes it so much more clear. Because when I'm thinking about the personalities of different regions, it's sadly, it's pretty easy for me to say, oh, you have a very European personality when it's like you can have a Spanish or a Greek, or I'm sure there's so much nuance there. And now that you mentioned
Yeah.
there's like, such a stark difference between northern and southern Spain, for example, that kind of blows my mind. I mean, like, tell me more about that. What are like the stereotypes or the differences?
I mean, I think the stereotypes for the most part is that, yeah, I mean, like southern Spain is more of like
Mhm,
the chill, like siesta,
mhm,
take your time with things. I think they're a bit
mhm,
louder, like they talk
mhm,
louder, their dialects a
mhm,
bit different.
mhm,
Uh, while like I only visited the north, like I was in Madrid, Barcelona, and San Sebastian a couple years ago, like 4 years ago. Or no, God,
mhm,
it's probably been like 7 years, but.
mhm, mhm,
But I was only there for like a week, so I didn't get that
mhm,
much of a read. But
mhm,
yeah, I think the North is a bit more like probably comparable to like more New Yorker-ish, where like more
mhm,
people kind of like focused on their careers, maybe a bit more
mhm.
business centric.
Mhm.
I'm sure. I think probably the check's gonna come a little faster at the restaurant. I'm hoping.
I hope so too, for your sake, man.
Because I,
Well,
I I didn't
when
remember. Yeah, I didn't remember that happening last time. I was like in Madrid. I mean, it was
mhm,
definitely like more of a chill vibe at restaurants, but
mhm,
I still remember if I asked for the check, it probably showed up within like 5 minutes or something like that.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but no, I mean, actually, yeah, the more I travel, and then especially so me, I've got my Polish roots, and so
mhm,
I've spent a decent amount of time in Poland now, and now that I spend more time in other places in Europe, it's almost kind of weird because like Polish culture, I would almost say would be more similar. Like even
mhm,
though it's Europe, I would say it's more similar to like some Asian aspects
mhm,
versus
mhm.
like I feel like southern Spain and Poland are like very opposite, even though they're
Yeah,
both Europe. So
I could see
it's
that.
it's really interesting. Like just like the approach to life, like
Totally.
family, things like that. I'm seeing like more overlap. Like even like in Korea, I feel like there was more similarities with like Polish culture than I would say with other parts of Europe, especially. Um,
I find that interesting because even when we talk about like your upbringing, your childhood, it does strike a lot of similar notes. I feel like to what I experienced in like in an Indian culture, Indian area, Indian family, and
hmm
it holds true. I mean, I met like I met a Polish girl in Chicago who actually had a very similar kind of upbringing to you, where it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's certain approaches. I think education, strictness, you could probably it runs the entire gamut. But I did notice a lot of similarities. Also met a friend here in San Diego. He's
hmm
Nigerian, and he is devout about going to church. I noticed that there's just an element of culture, an element of collectivism. I guess is just a really broad way I would put it. They believe in like the nuclear family unit and making that a really really big part of your life, which I felt, and I think I think it all relates to loose and strict cultures, but I think that maybe that's one part of what makes like a more tight or strict culture is a big focus on collectivism and having a really tight knit family.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that pressure of fitting in, I think.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
a
think
double-edged sword.
especially, yeah, and I think for the most part, like America has been really moving away from, I think, that approach for the last few decades. So,
Follow
um,
West.
yeah, I mean, it just feels, I don't know, because it's weird for me, like growing up, like with the stricter parents and like the whole family
Mhm.
idea, like I've
Mhm.
always really cherished that whole aspect of
Yeah,
it. And then now
same.
it's really weird getting to my age and like you mentioned with like dating and things like that. It's
Mhm.
just like all these girls that I meet like either don't want to have kids or they're doing like this ethical non-monogamy, like God knows what. And it's like it's tough, man, because yeah, if you're actually looking for kind of just like the old school chill family approach,
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely a bit more complicated. But I feel like we could definitely do like 20 episodes on dating at some point,
Oh,
especially
100%.
when it
Especially
comes to
especially nomading and dating. That's
yeah,
a whole
which I don't know. I'm taking a bit of a break right now. I don't know if you're
good for
like,
you, dude.
yeah.
Uh, I'm not taking a break right now.
Oh no.
No,
What's
I'm
your
not.
what's your latest escapade? You can give us like a little
So,
cliff notes, I guess.
sure. So my latest escapade is I'm dabbling into the dark arts of ethical non-monogamy.
Oh
Um,
no.
they got me. I
All
got.
right.
Nope.
Oh no, you're oh no, it's the end. We had a good run, folks.
I'm like, dude, I'm out. I'm out. No, I mean, it's funny just because you're mentioning it, and then like when I met you, I was kind of like dabbling in that for a hot
Yeah.
like 2 months, and then yeah, that went out the window pretty fast. But I hope
Wait.
you.
I didn't turn it on. Give me a little refresher here, because when I met you, I did not believe I ever heard you say something positive about ENM.
Oh no, I mean, well, remember when we went out? I don't want to mention any names, but
Yeah, I don't want you either.
one of
Yeah, I know
the dates.
the double date. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
So
it didn't seem like there was much of a consideration at any point. But correct me
no,
if
it
I'm
was.
wrong.
I mean, I was getting like pressured into it, but because I was like
Uh,
open to
oh,
seeing like where it goes,
I
and
did not know. I did not know that you were considering it for some point. At some point.
I mean, I guess maybe, yeah. I mean, I wasn't like that seriously considering it. I was giving it a shot. I was trying to be open-minded,
Mhm. Okay.
Um, because like I am open to like I think it just works
Yeah.
for certain people,
Disclaimer,
right?
folks. He's very open-minded.
I'm super open-minded, whatever you like to do. Like if it works for you, I'm happy for
Yeah.
you.
Okay. I respect that. Mhm.
I just think personally I don't know, I just don't think it works for me. I like consistency from my partner especially. So I
Mhm.
would want to make sure that I want to be their priority in a sense. I want to
Mhm.
prioritize them. I don't want to feel like I'm splitting my
Totally.
energy between like three people, uh,
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. But let's hear how it's going for you, though. I'm curious
No,
if
I
you're
feel the same way. It's not really the
okay.
problem is that it's not fully voluntarily, but I think given that there's no listen, it's not, it sounds
Blink
sad.
twice if you need help, dude.
No, listen, no. So like the thing is, like you said, dating while you're traveling is difficult.
So difficult. So
And I think
difficult.
that it introduces some constraints that I feel like you can either adhere to and date, or choose to like avoid or abstain from and then not date. So I'm choosing the former. I'd rather see how this goes, see what it feels like, as long as so basically I came in saying, hey, like I said, part of the purpose of the inspiration to come to San Diego was to find comfort in solitude. Um,
Yeah.
and just get a lot of shit done for myself. So I was like, okay, I don't really want to spend too much time playing the app game, which is tedious. And I want to basically find someone that I connect with, like have just a nice, respectful, hopefully exclusive thing,
Yeah.
and then that's it. Let it ride. Just enjoy that for my trip.
Yeah.
I met someone I really liked, and by the second date, I asked them to be my wife for the trip. They said no.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know. I mean, which makes sense. I mean, obviously it was all tongue in cheek, but yeah, I was
Yeah.
getting at something exclusive, and rightfully so. They were like, it doesn't make sense. They wanted a long term relationship. They were like, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense for me to not look for a long term relationship if you're going to leave soon. So that's like where the the nomading constraint comes in. And I was like, that's completely fair.
Yeah.
So we actually parted ways, but you know how this. I don't know. I mean, you know that I can fall into some toxic patterns. So so we end up
We
rekindling
we
and stuff.
call we all can, I'm sure, but
Yeah, it's tough. But anyway, so long story short, we started seeing each other again. We really like each other, and so it's cool because it's like I've been in some situations where it's like, oh, people are okay with ENM until, like, as long as it's one-sided, and once the other person like goes on a date or something, they can go, they can get like all of a sudden the jealousy monster will come up. But
Mhm.
in this case, I mean, I went on a date with someone else last night, and I told her about it, and she was surprisingly not jealous, and I was like, okay, but now I know that the reverse has to happen, and I don't know how I'm gonna.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's a toe in the water. I feel like since I'm traveling, this is the time where it's the time to try stuff like that out, because at the end of the day, I'm leaving soon anyway. It's like not like we're gonna have to deal with each other. I mean, not, even if we're living in the same place, not like we would, but you know what I mean. I feel like there's more like at stake if you're in the same place for a while. It just feels like emotions intensify and stuff. Whereas right now, I can treat it as just an interesting foray and get a sense of how it feels and go from there.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think if you're ever gonna give it a try while you're nomading would make sense.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And it's where it's most needed too. Like, if I was settling down somewhere, maybe I wouldn't want to try it as much. But like right now, I feel like yeah,
yeah.
and it's fair to everyone involved, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think my biggest I mean, just the social aspect of nomading, I think, is the biggest
Mm-hmm.
hurdle. And since I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had to deal with it in a while now, like also the last week has been a little bit challenging in that sense. Because I don't know, like you've been nomading just like around the States for a couple months so far, but
Yeah,
just like
it's
for me,
it's
after like
early.
4-ish years of doing it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, the amount of people that I've like met and had like
Mm-hmm.
really good nights out with or like hung out with
Mm-hmm.
a couple times, and then you just kind of like stay in touch on Instagram. But after like a year or two, like you already don't know anything about this person. You guys kind of like quickly, like fade apart,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been like I don't know if you feel this, but sometimes when I meet
Mm-hmm.
people when I'm traveling, it's like you'll have these like say you meet someone randomly, you have a cool night out,
Mm-hmm.
and like you could see yourself being good friends with them if you're in the like vicinity of each other, but then
Mm-hmm.
you leave and you're gone for, a year, 2 years,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then it just like nothing just happens. It's just like for some reason it almost makes me sad a little bit, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Totally.
it's like the amount of times where I'll be, say, in a city for a month and not meet anyone that I connect with. And then I think about how like, man, I could have been nourishing like other friendships during this time
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
other
Yeah.
relationships, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been like one of the toughest lessons that nomading has taught me, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, And I don't know, have you experienced that much, or have you like thought about that really, or are you still
I
like
have.
pretty, yeah,
No, I have, and it's a really good topic, and like since you do have so much experience, I'm happy to answer, but I want to hear more about your
yeah, yeah,
experiences because it does sound. I know that you brought this up before a lot, and it's like
yeah,
I know how close this topic is to your heart. And I think that we could don't. I think that I mean, for like you said, the biggest hurdle. So, do you think the biggest hurdle to nomading is the whole social obstacle? Is that what you said?
yeah. And I think honestly, I think most people that I've met that have nomaded will agree that like
Yeah.
either they struggle with the
Mm-hmm.
loneliness, the isolation, because like
Mm-hmm.
you can either go to one extreme or the other, I guess, or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you try to balance, but you're either going to be like, if you're an introvert that doesn't go out
Mm-hmm.
much, isn't good at meeting people. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna go to I'm alone in my apartment on Friday night and like ordered in food,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't interacted with a human for like 3, 4 days, because like
Mm-hmm.
if you're at home working on your laptop,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't have to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the opposite end is like you're really extroverted, you go out all weekend, you're like meeting people left and right, and then you get into
Mm-hmm.
this situation that like I run into where I've met all these really cool people that I've liked a
Mm-hmm.
lot, that I've connected with, I have good
Mm-hmm.
memories with, but it's like I never like I leave and I never see them again. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of it's like heartbreaking, and so on both sides it's kind of heartbreaking in a way. Um
Yeah.
but I think for me, especially like since I've been doing it so long, I feel like it like with each trip it like like I gather more trauma from that
Oh
probably. So,
no!
no, I mean,
Holy
yeah,
shit!
like
Yeah, no,
to
I
be
get it.
honest
That's
with you,
fair.
that's how it feels. But I'm curious to like how does it feel for you? Like, does that bum
Okay,
you out? Do you,
so
you know?
well, actually, to be completely honest, I think I disagree in like in terms of my experience. Like,
Okay.
I feel really fortunate that I only had this is only my second trip, so honestly, like time will tell, and
Yeah.
if it could, I don't want to be like I'm still young and spry in this game, so I don't want to be cynical about it. So
No, no.
right, and who knows, maybe maybe, and yeah, like I think that like the only real test is time, but like right now, for example, in Chicago, I felt like there was two people that I feel like are going to be consistently and reliable in terms of like communication and connection and keeping up, and that's so far been the case. We like
Hmm.
we made so like one of them I just have so much to talk to them about that we scheduled a phone call, but I'm honestly I just want to see him in person so we can just have a 4 hour beer and just catch up because I do plan to return to Chicago. So also part of like the way I'm doing it, at least domestically, is
Hmm.
I'm picking places that I do want to return to, and like Chicago, I could see myself potentially moving to one day. San Diego, I don't. After this trip, I wouldn't really necessarily say I want to move here, but it's still a place that I could see myself coming back to. So I feel like that's part of the motivation on both sides to keep up some form of connection, is because I would plan to be there. So for example, there's a couple people. Right now, one of them, there's a tentative plan. They're going to be on the West Coast, so we might see each other next weekend. So that's really like I feel
Nice.
really grateful for that. And there's
Yeah.
another one who I just feel really close to and connected to, and there's like a third one who like is kind of like a little inconsistent in terms of communication, but at the same time, he just hit me up like last night or a couple nights ago, just saying what's up and stuff. So I
Hmm.
feel fortunate that yes, there's a lot of people that I met in Chicago that I'm not going to be in touch with, but I do feel like there's a certain like two or three people that I feel like I made a really close connection with. That at least for now, so far, it's only been like 6 months or so, probably even less than
Yeah.
that actually. But at least there's some form of like communication, and that does make me feel really good. It warms my
Mm.
heart. And in San Diego, I'd say there's only maybe one person I think, or one to two people I think that I'm really gonna keep up with, maybe three. But still, I feel like it's nice to be able to recognize like, yeah, there's a lot of people who I'm having fun with, but I might not really stay close with. Maybe I'll see them again if I come back. But it's also nice
Yeah.
to be able to pinpoint like a couple people that there's a chance.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the ultimate test, because I've definitely met people, you
Mhm.
could look at it as like 3, 4 years ago now that
Mhm.
like I still message here and there. Like we certainly
Mhm.
don't, it's not like a monthly thing.
Mhm.
But I mean, and honestly, like I'm just gonna put this out there that I honestly put so much effort into trying to stay in touch with
That's
people.
good. Okay, that's great.
Um, like
That's
I,
like the next natural question. Yeah, is like how much effort are you
yeah.
really putting into it? Are you just upset about it and not doing anything about it, kind of thing?
I mean, that's the thing, and I feel like a lot of the
Mhm.
time it's not always return. Like for the most part, it's returned. No, actually, I would say like the
Mhm.
majority of the time it is returned, but sometimes like
Mhm.
I feel like, I'll reach out to someone maybe like 3 times in a row, and then maybe they'll reach
Mhm.
out to me once, but then I'm always like doing like 75% of the reaching out, which like is still, I think,
Mhm.
fine. But yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like, oh,
No.
I'm putting in a bit more effort here, which like, I don't know. I mean, it's okay because I feel like the more people that I meet, like some people are really like, they just don't sit on their phone and text all day, which I get, which I
Mhm.
also like
Mhm.
sometimes fall into that category. Where
Mhm.
honestly, like when I finish work, sometimes I literally
Mhm.
will just like turn my notifications off for all my messaging and like
Mhm.
maybe I'll look at it before I go to bed.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then just like reply to some people. But I just feel like when my phone's going off all the time,
Mhm.
especially because my work kind of revolves around, clients and things like that. So
Mhm.
if I've spent like 8, 9 hours out of the day with people
Mhm.
pestering me about stuff, and
Mhm.
that's the thing, like it sucks that now I almost like correlate, like, oh, my phone went off. I gotta like figure this out.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if it's your like best bro texting you, like you don't
Mhm.
want to have that feeling at first, right? Because like sometimes
Mhm.
I'll like see my phone and I'm like, oh, like I have a really close friend in Chicago. We've been friends since like elementary school. And
Mhm.
if I see a message from him, I'm always like, oh yes, awesome. Like,
Mhm.
hopefully we can have like a call. Like we actually call pretty regularly, but
Mhm.
I mean that's a bit of a tangent. But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
overall, like I put forth the effort for sure. But
Mhm.
I think yeah, it's like you mentioned, time will tell. Like some of the friendships I felt like, oh, I'll be in touch with them all the time for like for
Mhm.
God knows how long, but then, like after a year or two, it like really dwindles to maybe
Mhm.
reach out every like 6 months or every
Mhm.
once a year.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess sometimes you just have to kind of accept that, like, hey, there's a lot of distance between us. We haven't seen each other.
Mhm.
I think, I mean, obviously with technology, there's a lot of gap that you can cover that way, but
Mhm. Mhm.
ultimately it's impossible to like unless both people are really invested.
Mhm.
Uh, I feel like there's just going to be distance.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, I think that if you're staying in touch even every 6 months or every year with someone that you met, just for one part of your life, I think that's really
Yeah,
commendable. I mean, like, that's all you can ask for, I think, in some of these situations. But I think you're right.
yeah.
Like, as long as you are, putting your energy out there, like the positive energy that says, hey, I'm open to talk if you want to, that's all you really can do. I think the rest of it, like, you can't, like, engineer these social connections and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of it is just letting, like, putting the energy out and letting the chips fall where they may. And so I have to ask, I
Yeah.
mean, has there been any friends that you made that like that you talk that you speak to more regularly over traveling, or has it been really sparse?
No, yeah, I mean, especially like in New York.
In New York, I feel
So,
like you have a good, yeah.
yeah, I met a good amount of friends. I mean, my situation the last few
Mhm.
months. I've definitely like had
Yeah.
a good support system in New York, and
Yeah.
um actually one of my friends from New York might be in Spain in a couple weeks, so
Wow.
hopefully we can meet up there.
Really great.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, I feel like the places that I've really tried to invest more time, you can definitely kind
Hmm.
of make more of the friendship flourish and move
Yeah.
forward. But yeah, I mean, it's honestly been so tough to keep in touch with like my Chicago friends after growing up
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
Because I feel like so much, especially after 4 years, like everyone's lives are kind of going into different phases now,
Hmm. Hmm.
or just since like, because like I started nomading, I've been just all over the world. Everyone else is like
Hmm.
having kids
Hmm.
or like moving to different cities, like changing
Hmm.
careers and stuff, which like I've kind of been up to that too. I've been trying to dedicate time to that as well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, it's just, everyone's kind of going through life, going through their phases, and you're kind of, as you get further away from each other, it's like I feel like just nomading in general and like relationships and friendships, it's like if someone put you
Hmm.
on a roller coaster and
Hmm.
then try to make you hit like moving targets with a bow and arrow. Like that's what it
Hmm.
feels like, honestly, where it's
Yeah.
like, are you gonna hit a target sometimes? Yes. But are you also
Hmm.
gonna have like a really difficult time trying to do it? For sure. Um, so that's what a struggle for me, man. And I hope like for you, I mean, the one thing that nomading has taught me too is that there's a lot of good people out there. I feel like so
Hmm.
often I think I meet a lot of people that are like, oh man, like people suck, like everyone's terrible. They're so negative about it, but it's very rare that I go to a city where I don't meet someone that's like very kind, very good person that, I
Hmm.
would want to have in my life.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so I do try to like, I mean, I feel like that's our job, as humans that meet other good humans. We should try to stay in touch. We should try to like
Yeah.
cultivate that into good energy for the world. Not to get too like Buddha
Hmm.
about it, but or like
Totally.
spiritual. I'm gonna charge my crystals after this or whatever.
Dude,
In the moonlight.
you bash spirituality so much, but low key, you're one of the most spiritual people I've met. Like,
Oh man, that's crazy. That might be another like topic for another
yeah,
podcast. But
yeah.
no, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the universe, the universe gives you what it thinks you need, and
Mhm.
hey, you just gotta. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I do my part. I don't feel guilty for like the friendships
Mhm.
that dwindle. It's just I just think it's sad. It's just like a little bit sad.
So, so,
That's all it
so,
is. Yeah.
so, 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 where do you think the friendship stuck the most in New York?
That stuck. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, definitely. I just think I mean, New York was just in general, like in America, of course, it's just
Hmm.
easiest for me to relate to people. And
Hmm.
so I mean, like I've had good friends that I met like in Korea that I kept in touch with, but there's
Hmm.
always going to be kind of that like cultural difference where, you know, the way that we
Mhm.
look at certain things, the way we look at careers and like money or whatever, like
Mhm.
there's always going to be
Mhm.
this like really big
Mhm.
disconnect.
Mhm.
So I feel like, yeah, I mean, because yeah, essentially, like when you meet somebody, the more you bond, the more you have in common, I feel like you're gonna have a stronger friendship, right?
Mhm.
At least I think. So it's like the more in-depth friendships that I had were definitely in New York, and also New York's just such a great city for meeting people. Like
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough, and I think after traveling so much, and what I think,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, if you go to New York for like 3 days for a long weekend,
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
vacation. It's like you're not trying to meet people that much usually. Like
Mhm.
you went on a trip with your girlfriend and you ate at some restaurants and like went to Central
Mhm.
Park, you know? It's very
Mhm.
different than like I'm in New York and I'm like trying to make friends. I'm trying to like
Mhm.
create a community.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's like a city where it's totally possible, you know? If you
Yeah.
go out, you're gonna meet people, you're gonna like find people that you have things in common with, you're gonna meet people from
Mhm.
literally every corner of the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and that's like that's something that you can't really say about a lot of places.
That makes me want to kind of crack this because now like there's so many different variables here in terms of like making friends in a new city. So now one
Yeah.
aspect, like you mentioned, is the city itself. I think each city, like I thought it was overstated, the personalities of different cities when I before I traveled. Now that I
Hmm.
travel, it's like crazy how loud it screams at you. The personality of the city, you like see it everywhere, and it just like it hits you over the side of your head, and you're just like,
Yeah.
this is loud and different. So
Yeah.
that's one factor, that's one variable. And then like another variable is like what I was thinking, but the reason I asked you is if your friends suck most in New York. And you mentioned it's like, partially the city, which is such a good point, makes such a big difference. But also like one thing I'm noticing is that it's like I said, kind of like if it's a place that you want to invest in, I feel like, let's talk about the spiritual energy. People can feel it. Like I think that like in Chicago, I found
Hmm.
so much more like receptiveness, I think, from the people that were there because they were like, oh yeah, like let us know when you move, like I'll help you, like we'll visit apartments for you or whatever and stuff like that. It was just such a like community thing because I mean in reality Chicago was a place that I really wanted to see, really had the like have a still like a possible intention to move to. um
Hmm.
and I think people could feel that more and they were receptive to it. And I think that relationships are transactional in a lot of ways. And like I think that even like growing up in society in collective cultures and stuff like that, like some dude in San Diego, funnily, was giving me this theory, and I kind of buy into it. It's just that like the
Can't
reason
wait
for
to hear
collective,
this.
the reason that the collectivist societies are the way they are, like such a focus on community, is because they need to. They don't have the same resources to, dude. Right now, like you said, someone could hang out on their laptop if you're an introvert in a foreign country or anywhere. You could hang out your laptop and have zero contact with the outside world outside of your job, and that could be your entire life. And you could even, dude, you could get food. You could,
Hmm.
you could even like, yeah, like even if you wanted to meet people, you get married. You can go on the Hinge or whatever. Like you can do everything from your phone. There's really not much that you really need other people for if you have those kind of like if you have that kind of setup in your life.
Yeah.
But before there was just when resources are more constrained, you need other people. Like a woman needed a man to get married because for as a provider. A man, I mean, I needed a woman, still needs a woman if they want to have kids, but like needed a woman to take care of the home and stuff like that because they were so busy at work. Um,
Yeah.
and then like you need like your neighbors to help you watch the kids or something. Like, there was just more of a need for stuff like that. Now it's like everything is completely like you have everything you need at your fingertips, which is great, obviously, for so many reasons, but it does deteriorate the need to meet people. So basically, that's a really long-winded way of saying, like, I go to San Diego and I'm not investing the same level of energy that I was in Chicago, and people can feel it, and they're just like, oh yeah, this schmuck is here for the winter because he's like because he has that like privilege too, and there's no need, there's no transaction. Whereas I mean, like one transaction again, like I use the word transaction loosely. I think people use it as a negative way. I don't really mean it in a
Hmm.
negative way, but like, in Chicago or in a place, it's like there is a transaction of like, hey, we can build a community together. You can be a part of my community and I can be a part of your community and we'll be nice to each other and stuff like that. And we'll build a relationship. Whereas
Yeah.
here, there's really nothing I can give to you besides a fleeting, like moment of happiness, hopefully,
Yeah.
in a country.
No,
So
I
I think
mean,
that makes a difference. Mhm.
I actually like 1,000% agree with that. I think that that's
Mhm,
pretty accurate.
mhm,
Um, yeah, you are kind of just you're just like a ship passing through in a lot of these cities
mhm.
if you're just staying for a little bit. And yeah, I get that. And
Yeah.
I think, but I think that like there's still, um, I mean, this is actually why like Asia is so
Mhm,
great, right? Because like
mhm,
in Asia, like people don't care if you're like in Tokyo for 3 days. If you go
mhm,
out and you meet like on a night out and you're
mhm,
drinking,
mhm,
sake or whatever
mhm.
together, like they will have a blast with you. They will be like so
That's
stoked. They'll
awesome.
like, go out with you the next day, like visit
Mhm,
places, go to restaurants, because like they just
mhm,
are so curious about someone from like a
mhm.
different culture that's so different from
Yeah,
theirs.
yeah. You have something to, so you
So
have something to offer though.
yeah, that's true. Like your
Mhm,
value
mhm,
there gets is
mhm,
like
mhm.
exponentially higher.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, so this goes back. It was so funny. Have you seen that episode of Friends where it was about what's her name? I think Phoebe, right? She talks about how
Mhm.
there's no like good deed that's not selfish in some way.
Oh, I
And
didn't see that
then
one. Mhm.
you have to. I'll find it for you. I'll send it to you. Like I don't
Mhm.
even watch
Great.
Friends, but someone had me watch that
Mhm.
episode
Okay.
recently,
Oh, nice.
and,
Okay, I'll
and
check it out.
essentially like two of the friends like fight about it, how they're like, because one of them is like, no, like you could do a good deed and it's not for selfish reasons. And another one's like, no,
Mhm.
every single one is like selfish in some way, because you're like
Mhm.
you're trying to feel good. You
Mhm.
want that dopamine release of like, oh, I helped you
Yeah.
do that.
Mhm.
And it's kind of true. So
Mhm.
yeah, like looking at it as like, is it transactional or not? Like you're
Mhm.
probably gonna get something out of it that makes you feel
Mhm.
good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that dynamic. I mean, I see this is so actually this gets so deep, honestly,
That's
because
great.
like if you think about it, like the people that really only had to experience this like prior to remote working were people that, immigrated from other countries. And they
Mhm.
even wouldn't have experienced it in the sense of like, oh, I'm only here for a month, but they would have to
Mhm.
experience it in the sense of I just came to this new country. I have to like learn the language, learn the culture, and then create my own community here that's gonna like you mentioned, kind of make me feel welcome, protect me, protect
Mhm.
my family.
Mhm.
And like that's so huge. Like I thought about that so much when I first started nomading internationally
Mhm.
because my parents immigrated from Poland when they were in their like early 20s, mid 20s.
Mhm.
And so they had to do that, you know? They like I
Mhm.
kind of went through what they went through. Like I obviously like mine is my approach is a lot easier because like I'm on a computer. I have like Google
Mhm.
Translate.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier, but like, yeah, I get that sense of, I mean, I see why a lot of the times I notice when people immigrate, it's like they immigrate with like a significant other, right? Because
Mhm.
if you're immigrating just literally by yourself, like that
Mhm.
is so scary
Yeah.
because you don't even have anyone to fall back on. You're literally just like, I'm here alone, new place, and you have to just sort it out by yourself. So,
And and imagine like we're so lucky that we have the flexibility of like okay like on one hand it's a downside of having of being somewhere for just a month and like we talked about like there's some downsides there in terms of relationship building and community building especially long term
yeah.
but like we have that optionality to leave and pack up and go back to a place that feels more comfortable whereas for
Hmm.
them there's something really daunting about like they probably have an in-person job they're locked in and they need
Yeah.
to make the best out of whatever they have which is so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like you have to commit out of
Yeah,
necessity.
yeah, which
No
is
matter
crazy.
what.
I hate
Yeah.
that. I hate the entire.
Well, yeah,
Well,
because I mean that goes completely against like the whole reason why people want to be nomads, right? Because it's the
yeah,
whole
because they
idea of
don't
like
want to.
the freedom to be where they want to be, to work from where they want
Mhm,
to work from.
mhm,
So yeah, I mean it is way different, but like I guess I would say I got like the like Diet Coke version of that at least in
mhm.
some
No, for
sense.
sure.
Like so, I mean I just appreciate that. Like I feel like that humbled me a lot too.
Mhm,
Um, just because I was like, man, like, because sometimes life can be tough, life can be
mhm,
complicated. But when I look
mhm,
back and I think like, what did my previous generations have to go through? What is it that other people go through sometimes, like all over the world? And
mhm.
in the grand scheme of things, I've been pretty good. Oh, I guess,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm just grateful for that. And so yeah, I mean it's like one of those things like I feel like I wouldn't have those epiphanies without the whole experience of nomading and like going to foreign countries and things like that.
Totally. And I have one more question about like this specific topic about like, so
Sure.
now, you talked about how difficult it is to have these kind of fleeting connections and stuff like that. And we talked about how, I mean, open to brainstorming, but in general, it feels like there's no real strong solution to that, because there has to be some kind of a selfish aspect to it. And what can you really provide if someone's so far away? So like now, given that, you still nomad.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you know that I've kind of been inching towards the idea of settling
Mhm,
somewhere. But
mhm.
okay, so quick tangent on that though. Something really interesting.
Sure.
So I'm a dual
Mhm.
citizen.
Oh,
So I
nice.
have like European
Mhm,
Union passport and a
mhm,
US passport.
mhm,
And so this time when I came to Europe, I actually used my EU passport for the first time to enter the EU,
mhm,
which I flew in through Frankfurt, Germany, and this is the wildest thing. So I went into the EU line and I didn't even
mhm,
have to talk to an agent. Like all I did was
mhm.
scan my passport. I
Damn.
like walked into this thing that like scanned my face and it just let me in. And it was just like so crazy because like
Mhm,
I don't have to leave ever if I don't want to,
mhm,
you know?
mhm,
And
mhm.
I think, and like I've known that since I've gotten the passport, that like Europe is an option for me to work and live
That's
here
so
if I
cool.
want to.
Mhm,
It is really cool, but like it wasn't until that moment that I passed that gate and I looked around and I noticed like I'm just like past customs that I was
mhm. You're
like
one of them.
that's it? Like like this is theoretically my home, you know? Like I
Yeah.
have every right to be here, and I can stay here.
Unreal. That's so cool.
So yeah, for me that was pretty intense. So I mean I don't know, like I've had it's such a battle the last like year with all this,
Mhm.
um, which we could have like a whole episode on discussing this, I think. But
Sure.
no, yeah, it's tough. Like I mean I think over time I try to provide like more to the people that I meet. Hopefully, I'm trying to be
Mhm,
like you know give back in some way in a
mhm.
positive way. And just like honestly, just my whole approach with nomading has always been like I want to leave the place that I am better than how I found it when I got there,
That's really great.
which
Mhm,
um which has always been my approach to like traveling in general. Um and it's not always easy because like I said, like I get frustrated with cultural stuff sometimes.
mhm,
But I mean I do like put it forth an effort to learn languages, connects with people. I don't go out looking for altercations, things like that. Like especially,
mhm.
I've seen so many Americans and like foreigners acting so stupid abroad,
Oh, really?
and I just would never want to contribute to that. It's really embarrassing, and I feel really proud when people are like, I thought Americans were like this, but I met you, and like I really appreciate your approach, and I'm glad I've met you, and it makes me look at America in a different way. Because especially right now, like America is not the hottest commodity when it comes to like
When it comes to goodness and
yeah,
decency.
but I mean I feel like I've met so many Americans that are like, oh, I'm embarrassed to admit that I'm American, and I actually,
Mhm,
to be 100% honest with you, I
mhm,
felt like that for a long time.
mhm,
But I think over the last couple of years, like traveling around, I am proud of where I grew up. I'm proud of
mhm,
the country I'm from, and I'll
mhm,
admit the mistakes and the shortcomings of that country any day. But
mhm,
every country has its own problems,
mhm,
and so overall, like I mean, I am proud, and like I just hope to provide like a positive experience for people that like maybe don't know Americans or haven't met them
mhm,
before. But it is tough. It is tough. But honestly, like I feel like more and more Americans are like probably not even traveling anymore
mhm.
because like it's literally like I think only a small bubble of Americans that actually like leave the country regularly.
Yeah.
And like everyone else just like travels either within the states or probably not even at all.
Yeah.
So, but generally like I mean honestly as I travel around and I meet Americans, like the ones that travel the most tend to be like the most like open-minded, kind of like the more empathetic types of people.
Mhm,
Just because, yeah, I think they've met people of like every walk of life, and that kind of helps you. I don't know. Like it's a really deep thing to be able to, especially like meet people that you might not agree with or understand, but still try to kind of put yourself in their shoes, you know?
mhm. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that is good that it seems like the empathic ones are the ones that are traveling. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it's nice to go to a foreign country, and even though I've only been for more short-term travels, it sucks to be invited with the like just the attitude of, oh, these Americans. So it'd be nice for that perception to change over time, and it's really good that you're like, you know, being a strong ambassador of the States and
Yeah, I mean,
supporting it.
I hope you'll be doing the same once you're out there, but because you have your Europe trip coming up, right?
I do. I'm excited for it, man. You gotta give me all the recs after your Europe trip.
Yeah, but you're gonna be like, where again?
All
Estonia
of
or
it.
something?
I'm going to Croatia for a week, and then after that,
Croatia.
it's
Oh,
really
okay.
open. Yeah.
Oh, so you might like pick like somewhere like in Spain or Italy or something?
Oh, I'll be going all over after that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you trying to
Mhm.
do like a week in every city or
Yeah, I think I'm trying to do like a real like a I don't even know quick hitter kind of thing, just to see it all.
that's gonna be tough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's
Really?
tough.
Is
Yeah,
it?
like the constantly like packing up while you're working and like moving around and like trying to go to
Mm,
like museums and sightseeing at the same time. It's tough, dude. I mean, if you have the energy for it, you have the motivation, I say jump into it, but I think you're gonna find that pretty quickly you're gonna be like, ouch, this is like
let's
this
see,
is
man.
crazy.
Hey, you
Yeah.
can always change it up, man. If I like France, maybe I'll just freaking stay there forever.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you just book a week here, a week there, and then say
Yeah.
you're halfway through a week somewhere and you're like, hey, I actually really dig it here. I'm gonna book another month and there you go, you know?
Start a new life.
Yeah, you could if you, that's the thing. You're free to
Well,
do that.
so I asked you about you feel all this like heartbreak and somewhat some level of pain from nomading, but you still do it. And then you talked
Yeah.
about how you have two passports. So is
Yeah.
there a chance that we see you settle down in Europe at some point?
I mean, my plan for the longest time actually was to like retire in Europe somewhere.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I actually always really enjoyed Spain. Like I could see myself being the friggin' like 70-year-old white dude, you
That's
know, in some Spanish city that's like reading a book at a cafe at 2 in the afternoon, you know?
you're already
Um,
there, just minus 35 years.
yeah, no, it's true. Yeah. I'm basically there.
That was you a couple of days ago.
No, yeah, it was me today. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
but yeah, I mean, but it really depends on like where life takes me. But honestly, I don't, apart from Polish, I don't know any of the languages well enough, I think, to be able to find a good job in any of these countries.
Mhm.
But I think with English, there might be some, possibility.
Mhm.
But also, if I just find a fully remote job that doesn't mind me working from Europe, that could also be an option. So I mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
really anything is possible. But
Mhm.
I never really felt like Europe was the place for me.
Mhm.
But America is so expensive now. It's so expensive.
That's true. That's
But
true.
parts of Europe are also very expensive now. Everywhere's expensive. Unless you move
Mhm.
to like middle of nowhere in like Thailand maybe
Mhm.
and buy like I don't know. I'm sure you could buy like a house somewhere for like 50K US and
Mhm.
have a cheap life, but that brings its other challenges. So,
Yeah, and then that's like a whole different. That's a whole leap. And then there's like the
yeah.
perception of Americans who just live in Thailand. Besides like the country stuff, like I was watching The White Lotus, and like there was a whole
Oh,
part
you need to
of
check that out. Yeah.
dude, yeah, check it out. Second episode's coming out today. Might have come
Uh,
out on your
I
time.
haven't seen the
Oh,
older seasons, but someone recommended that show to me before.
dude, I love that show. But
I'm
there's a
so
whole segment.
behind.
No, I'm behind on a bunch of other shit. Like when it comes to like the cornerstones of culture, I'm pretty behind
Yeah.
on.
No, same here. Like every
But the
conversation I have, someone's like, "You saw this movie? No. You saw this show? No."
yeah, for real. But the new
It's
stuff,
not.
like this indie stuff, I like.
Yeah.
But there's like the whole series in this most recent episode where it was like they talked about LBHs, how the Thailand locals call like bald dudes, like bald white dudes in their like 60s who moved to
Yeah.
Thailand or whatever, like LBHs, losers back home. And I was like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I actually ran into those guys a bunch when I was in
Mhm.
Thailand,
Mhm.
and
Oh
that's
wow.
actually that was the most jarring thing when I got to Bangkok because I stayed there for
Mhm.
2 months.
Mhm.
Was that last year, end of 2023 and first one of 2024, and the amount of like older white dudes that I saw walking around with like young Thai women was insane. Like it was everywhere.
Wow.
Like
That's
I
what
thought
someone
it,
else told me.
Yeah, like I thought it was always like overplayed, but it's kind of not. Like it's
That's
just a
crazy.
normal thing there. Yeah, it's like very accepted, I guess, socially. But
Wow.
I mean, unfortunate for these women, like they are in a financial situation where they feel the need that they have to do that, which
Transaction. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, but also like, you know, these dudes, yeah, they kind of are losers. Like, you know, these girls aren't that into you, man. Like,
Mhm.
she's just not. You know that.
Yeah, exactly. Be respectful.
Like, I feel like they live in their own little like delusional bubble of
Mhm.
yeah, like oh, she loves me so much. Like, I don't know, dude,
That's
but
crazy.
it's weird. It's very strange. It's very weird. But I mean, apart from that, like Thailand is very cool with the culture and like the
Mhm.
food, the history
Mhm.
is very interesting. The whole Muay Thai
Mhm.
thing,
Mhm.
really into it. Um, so it kind of sucks that there's this like overarching, really creepy like American stereotype that's there.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, but Americans are creepy. What are you gonna do? You're gonna get a stereotype for it eventually. Not all of them,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it
yeah,
attracts a certain breed.
that's true.
As we get close to wrapping up this first
Yeah,
episode, if you want to call it that, which
yeah,
we can slice and dice it and see if we can find a theme. It was kind of fun. This is kind of like all over, but I'm excited. I feel like we have a lot of like ground for like for future episodes. Where we can like
yeah,
kind of add some conversation. But as we come to a close, I still want to ask you that question. So like
yeah.
you feel all this pain and heartbreak and stuff, and like there's a lot of negatives that come from the wedding.
So
No, which is
emo,
true.
man.
Sorry, no, no, no. I mean, dude, it's like call it like it is.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a duck. So why we're here? Why do you nomad?
Why do I nomad? I nomad because I just feel this like calling to do it, to be honest with you. I
Okay,
just always
awesome. I
have
love that.
wanted to, yeah, I just always wanted to like explore life
Hmm.
in different cultures.
Hmm.
And this opportunity, like just the last few years has allowed me to do that. I think when you go into something you've never done, you will never know the negatives of it, you know? Like a lot of big decisions that you're going to make in your life in terms of lifestyle, you're not going to know the negative repercussions until you actually do it. So I mean, yeah, I went into it and honestly, like there's always that honeymoon phase. Like I would say even the first like year and a half, 2 years,
Hmm.
it was just very, the whole time I was like, oh my God, new place, new food, new people, so exciting. This is amazing. But then over time it got, like, oh, this flight's delayed. This flight got canceled. I was stuck
Hmm.
in the airport 8 hours. Oh, I really like this person. I never get to see them again. I like this girl. And like, I think I might be falling for her. Oh, never gonna see her. Like, like that
Hmm.
type of a thing. Oh, now she's dating some other guy and I get to see that on
Hmm.
Instagram. And it's like, all that kind of piles on you sometimes and it could get a little much, you know? Um but 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 at the end of the day, like I think the positives outweigh the negatives. It's just that long term, I just don't think for me personally, I don't think it's sustainable. I think if some people can really disconnect from that whole idea of if
Hmm.
you just go into it like I'm meeting these people short term,
Hmm.
I don't, probably they're like I don't really care about them, whatever then I'm sure
Hmm.
they'll be fine. They could keep moving around, meeting people, whatever. But like for me, like I meet people, I connect with them, I like care about them. And then yeah, then it hurts me if I don't get to see them anymore and like I don't get to be a part of their life. So it's been a lot kind of digesting that. But I still think that everyone in the world should at least once in their life like go live in another country and for at least like a month or two. I
Hmm.
think I don't think there's a single person out there that wouldn't benefit from that you know, as an experience. So
That that was gold. That
yeah,
was so
that's my
beautiful.
2 cents for this episode, for
No,
sure.
that was awesome, man. That's so cool. I feel like, dude, like when you say it like that, it's so obvious that you just have so much experience and such a world within you of the experiences and the travel and the people and everything that you've kind of taken in. And I'm so excited to dive more into that as we continue to podcast. Like it is really, really, really cool to me.
I mean, you're gonna be doing it yourself soon, so I'm
Totally, yeah,
excited
man.
for you to kind of like, I guess, I mean, not to make this like comparison fully, but like you're gonna take the red pill, so to speak, of the nomading life, you know?
To an extent, to an extent. I have no idea what form it's going to take, but yes, I know for a fact that I also feel the same calling to explore and
Yeah.
interact with people and yeah, just yeah, but be out there and live. So
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. I know it's gonna be, I
mhm.
think it's gonna be a really positive experience for you. And but all right, so I think I'm gonna cut the recording here, but
Okay.
we'll do a new episode hopefully soon. And yeah, it's gonna be dope.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Stay tuned.